Hey everyone, welcome to the 700 Club. I'm Andrew Knox in for Gordon Robertson today. A unique way to enter the race for the White House. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made his announcement last night on Twitter alongside the company's owner, Elon Musk.
In some ways, his campaign launch backfired. The feed crashed several times as more than 1 million people tried to listen. Former President Trump was quick to call it Ron's disaster. CBN's Jenna Browder has the details from Washington.
In an unconventional way to kick off a campaign, Ron DeSantis threw his hat into the ring, making it official in an audio-only Twitter announcement. The kickoff, though, got off on rough footing, including silence and crackling audio for about 20 minutes.
I think we've got just a massive number of people online.
Musk heard talking about the number of people logging into the site, and DeSantis pointing to enthusiasm for his campaign. His opponents took the opportunity to pounce, the Trump campaign calling the announcement Ron's disaster, and President Biden tweeting "This link works," leading supporters to his fundraising site. Even before the event, Inside Elections' Nathan Gonzalez questioned the rollout on CBN's Faith Nation.
The way he he started this campaign is confusing or baffling to me. He had the opportunity to have his moment in the spotlight, where he is on stage all to himself, and he chose an audio-only format, sharing it with Elon Musk. We'll see in the end whether that was the right decision. It's just a very curious choice.
The conversation did eventually get to policy and culture war issues. DeSantis avoided talking about Trump, but took direct aim at President Biden.
Biden's pursued inflationary policies that are hurting working people. We will reverse those policies, and we'll build an economy where working Americans can achieve a good standard of living.
And after the Twitter launch, DeSantis gave his first TV interview to Fox.
We will never waver in our defense of families and children. And as a father of a 6, a 5, and a 3-year-old, I strongly believe that parents should be able to send their kids to school, have them watch cartoons, or just be kids without someone trying to shove an agenda down their throats.
DeSantis joins a growing field in the GOP primary, including Nikki Haley, who called him a Trump copycat.
He needs to be his own person. He needs to get out there and say what he believes, what he thinks. If he's just going to be an echo to Trump, people just vote for Trump.
And South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who sat down with CBN News after he announced this week.
What I want to focus on is what America has done. That being the city on the hill that's consistent with the gospel is our responsibility and our future if we take ourselves out of it.
All of these candidates still trail Trump significantly. Polling consistently shows, though, DeSantis is his most formidable challenger. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Boy, oh boy, that is certainly not the way Ron DeSantis wanted to come out of the gate stumbling like that. And to give President Trump raw meat to seize into like that is not the way he wanted to begin, that is for sure. Of course, now with Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, the Republican Party has some choices ahead of them. And for DeSantis to be mocked by Biden in that way, certainly a rough way to start. I actually thought Mike Pompeo would run for president this time, and DeSantis may sit this one out and come back in 4 years. But here, DeSantis has chosen to run. Rough start, though. In other news, the failure to reach a debt ceiling deal is putting the U.S. credit rating at risk. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Andrew. The June 1st deadline is fast approaching, with the White House and congressional Republicans still negotiating. The threat of a government default has a major credit rating agency putting the country's AAA status on a negative watch. Among the issues on the table, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy seeks spending cuts, while the administration wants higher taxes on wealthy individuals and businesses. In the face of the growing crisis, lawmakers are set to leave town for the holiday weekend. They are not expected back until next Tuesday, just 2 days before the deadline. Well, turning now to the sad state of missing and exploited children in America. Attorney General Merrick Garland putting the spotlight on the crisis at the Department of Justice Wednesday. Garland said children and teens under the age of 18 account for almost a third of the FBI's missing persons reports. This year, a 10-week operation called We Will Find You between national, state, and local agencies resulted in the recovery of 225 children. Protecting children from online predators is key to keeping them safe. A leader in the fight against sexual exploitation claims big tech is part of the problem. As CBN's Charlene Aaron reports, the group is calling out companies it says facilitate, enable, and even profit from policies that put children at risk.
The list list, dubbed the Dirty Dozen, exposes businesses that fail to protect children from sexually abusive content. The goal is to motivate consumers to call on corporations, government agencies, and other organizations to change their policies and practices.
Oftentimes, these are platforms that we use every day and might not realize that they have policies or practices that enable sexual harm.
Companies on the 2023 list include the Apple App Store, popular social media sites Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter, eBay, as well as the digital music service Spotify. Haley McNamara, Vice President for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, wants parents to know how easy it can be for their children to be targets in their own home.
Some of these are on for issues like easy access of adults to children, which results in grooming and sexual abuse. One that might be particularly applicable to parents and surprising would be the video game and platform Roblox, which is used by millions and millions of children around the world. And unfortunately, it's very easy for predators to gain access to children on that platform. Other platforms are social media focused, such as Reddit and Twitter, where unfortunately there's a large amount of child sexual abuse material or adult non-consensual sharing of material as well.
She says while awareness is important, this Dirty Dozen list also serves as a tool for child safety activists with a track record of getting companies to change their ways.
While these are dark issues, there is so much hope because we have every year victories from the Dirty Dozen list. So in some recent ones include, we got Amazon to stop selling childlike sex dolls, which they were selling in the past. We've had progress from Walmart, the Department of Defense, Verizon, United Airlines, and so many other companies that have improved their policies thanks to people taking action through the Dirty Dozen list.
Moving forward, McNamara hopes for even more progress, especially when it comes to protecting those most vulnerable.
I really hope that we can have more responsibility put on technology platforms themselves to make their products safe or to turn products safety on by default, at least for children.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thank you, Charlene. Well, we're just 1 week away from the start of the 2023 hurricane season, which started early for residents of the U.S. Pacific Territory of Guam. Typhoon Marwar hit the island Wednesday night as a Category 4 storm, the strongest to strike Guam in more than 20 years. It ripped off roofs, flipped vehicles, and shredded trees. Many residents are without power and utilities, but so far no reports, fortunately, of injuries or death. Well, with summer just around the corner, doctors are warning against too much sun exposure in the hot months ahead. Medical reporter Lori Johnson reports on the most dangerous kind of skin cancer and how you can protect yourself and your loved ones.
Melanoma, the deadliest type of skin cancer, usually begins as an abnormal mole. If left untreated, it can grow deep into the skin and travel along the lymphatic system or bloodstream and start tumors in important organs like the brain, lungs, or liver. While rates of melanoma have reached about 100,000 a year, related deaths are down to about 8% or 8,000 a year.
Early detection is actually the key, because if we could find every melanoma early, we could cure every melanoma. And what people need to do is everybody needs to be aware of their moles.
Doctors suggest using the ABCDEs of melanoma to detect a suspicious mole. See a doctor if you find one that's asymmetrical, with an uneven border, is more than one color, a diameter bigger than a pencil eraser, or is evolving. If a biopsy shows a suspicious mole is indeed melanoma, a doctor will likely remove it.
UV exposure and ultraviolet exposure from the sun's rays is really the #1 most preventable and avoidable cause of not only skin cancer, but also signs of aging. So things like fine lines, wrinkles, brown spots, loss of elasticity. And just one blistering sunburn during childhood or adolescence can actually more than double your risk of melanoma later in life.
A broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or more helps protect against the sun's harmful rays. Check whether the type of sunscreen is mineral or chemical.
The FDA considers the mineral sunscreens to be generally recognized as safe and effective, GRASE. But when it comes to the chemical sunscreens, they're actually calling for sunscreen manufacturers to really take a closer look at the safety of some of those ingredients.
That's because animal studies show the chemicals can be absorbed into the bloodstream, and at least one, oxybenzone, could possibly cause hormone disturbances.
Doctors say any type of sunscreen is better than none at all, but these products are not perfect, and neither are we. Research shows most people don't use enough sunscreen or reapply it as often as we should. That's why physical sunblocks are also recommended. Things like shade, clothing, sunglasses, and a wide-brimmed hat.
And while spray tans and self-tanning lotions are okay, never use tanning beds, which emit 4 times more ultraviolet radiation than the sun. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Some important tips in the summer months ahead. Andrew?
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Lori, thank you. That is great information as we move from spring into summer. We need to be very careful. And, of course, monitor what you're sensitive to. It didn't take me long to realize I need a baseball hat just about every time I go outside in the summer. And during that piece, someone on our crew here in the studio said, remember, 10, 20 years ago, people used to actually put oil on themselves to try and get tan. So at least you were one of those, Terry. Okay, me just a little bit. So at least precautions are now being made. Yes. So good advice. Do it here, too. Thank you, Lori.